I told you I'm gonna hop on a soapbox wherever I can. So
I know. I'm loving this already. Well, hey everyone, welcome to another Ice Team podcast. I'm your host, Jason Durham, and I am absolutely honored to be sitting next to Dan Fuller right now. We are in his kitchen, and you wouldn't even believe it because I was just talking with Lex, and I said, you are the most flexible woman I have ever met, because I walk in and you would not believe the outdoor takeover in this kitchen. I mean, we're talking about, in the corner, we've got an aquarium with giant creek chubs. We've got a woodworking shop behind me where the dining room table would typically go, but instead there's a couple sawhorses, and you're working on putting epoxy in wood, and there's a sander, and there's musky lures hanging from every window and antlers everywhere. And you wouldn't believe how many trophies and plaques are scattered around this kitchen that Dan has acquired over the years, because he is an amazing angler. He's here to share some really great insight with you today. And one thing I love about you, Dan, super creative, super insightful, constantly recreating. That's why it's like a lab back here, because you're constantly tinkering. Mm-hmm. And if you follow the tournament scene in northern Minnesota, you know Dan Fuller, because he's typically at the top. And for those, though, who are a little bit out of the region, they probably don't know as much about you because you don't do a lot of media stuff.
Correct. Nope. I'm pretty much what you would consider an old school type of angler with a new school mentality. If you can meld those things together, is I am not on the social media every day. I need to get better at it. And my lovely wife, as you already introduced, is helping. But I'm not on the social media all the time. And we have some great adventures. We have some great times together in the boat with my wife, with my friends, with, Jason and Lex and I get to share the boat together. We've got tons of great experiences. I'm not that great at posting them online. I'm not that great at showing them to everyone else. So it is kind of cool to have you in here to showcase some of the things that we have been able. And when I say we, I always want to say that with what we do. It's a we thing.
For sure.
We are always doing stuff together. We went out and we had a wonderful time a few years ago in the spring when nobody thought we should have a boat hooked up to our vehicle, right?
Right.
I mean, we had that time.
Yeah.
And some of those things, I guess, we keep to ourselves here, but I also want to make sure that other people do at some point get to enjoy them. So maybe breaking into this realm of the social media and getting to talk to people is a very good step for us. When I say us, it's me and my wife, all our friends, Jason here, who so very nicely invited me to do this with him. And I am very, very, very humbled by this opportunity. So
I'm glad you said that word, humbled, because that's what I think of when I think of you, Dan. I mean, like, honestly, that's the first word that comes to mind, because, I mean, I'm looking at this pile of deer antlers up there that people would go crazy over, like, oh my gosh, like, where did you get those? Did they come from sheds? Are those deer that you shot? And then you've got the pictures up here of the deer and the muskies, and, you go behind me and you've got deer on the wall, and literally the number of plaques that you have from tournaments is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. But Dan isn't the one that goes out and goes, hey, I know some things about fishing. And in terms of humble, I love your tournament jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually brought to light some humility and, keeping everybody in check, if you will. Oh, I shouldn't say keeping everybody. Bringing a little check and balance to the tournament fishing with the tournament jersey that we had produced a couple of over the years, and I may bring them out later, may not. But mostly what it was about was we are out there because we love fishing. We love getting together with friends, family. I'm lucky enough to get to fish tournaments with my wife. Not that many people get to do that.
Right.
But we go up against some people who think that, and I may get criticized for it, but I'm fine with that. I can live with it. Who think that because you wear a jersey or put a wrap on your boat or whatever you do, you are better than the next person. And that doesn't bode well with me. So I brought a little bit of humility, a little bit of humble pie to the scene and made a couple. And it cost a lot of stinking money to get
pull
these
this off.
one-offs made.
You know what, Dan? I'm going to interrupt you right there. I'm going to have you go get them. Why don't you
right.
go get one of the jerseys?
I will.
I think everybody will enjoy seeing that.
I will.
It's not like you typically see on Tournament Angler. And though we started this out, the Ice Team podcast this time, talking about open water tournament fishing, the reason I am is to just give you an idea of how talented Dan is on the water. And that doesn't matter whether it's open water or ice fishing. He does both. And Dan is a guide now. And man, if you want an incredible experience, jump in his boat, because your brain, it'll explode. I mean, even just coming into this kitchen, you go, oh my gosh, the things that he shows you, that you go, I didn't know that bait existed. Oh, I got it from Europe. I ordered these. I'll never forget when I came over and you were putting magnets, precious earth magnets, which are not cheap, inside of swim baits, because the magnets they came with weren't good enough.
Correct.
So
I'm a forever
upgrade.
tinker, and you called that out right away.
Yeah.
And it is apparent by the little scenario
there's-
behind us, I guess. But I'm never satisfied with what I can purchase from a store. Very good products you can purchase from a store. Very good products you can deal with companies and go out and fish and be very successful. I'm not satisfied. I want to tinker. I want to change things. I want to see if I can manipulate that bait to Jason is fishing next to me and he's got the great bait. He's got the right color. He's got the right cadence, the right presentation. How can I outfish him?
Right.
How can I get my clients in a boat more bites? That's what it comes down to. I'm interested. I'm interested in all of it. Do I fail more than I succeed? Absolutely.
And see, I'm starting to go down the path of the opposite. I have always been a tinkerer, and I've loved playing with baits. I've loved inventing baits. But now I'm at the point where I want simplicity. And time becomes such a big thing for me. I'm just not allotted the time to spend in the lab playing around like I used to. So now for me, it's more about how can I take a bait directly out of the package and make it work to keep it as simple as possible and still catch fish doing it.
Got good news for you.
What's that?
Tackle companies are doing a wonderful job of that these days. An amazing job.
They've really stepped
Yep.
things up for sure.
They have really, really stepped things up.
Could you imagine if our grandfathers could see the stuff that we're doing now?
I actually wish that I could, because I never got to meet my grandfather on my father's side, who was born and raised Longville, Minnesota. So he would have been a Leech Lake fisherman. And long story short, I got to hear many stories about him taking himself, his friends, my dad, my uncle, whomever, out fishing on Leech Lake, using a rope with a weight on the bottom and knots in it, and then a big anchor to find depth, kind of like a Marco Polo, and hearing stories about catching fish. Bud Fuller caught fish. Bud Fuller was out there and he caught fish. He knew where to go. And I really do wish that he could see where we're at today. Not because I want to showcase our new technology and our new abilities, but to show him that, hey, we're down the line. We're still doing this. We're still enjoying it. We're changing. We're evolving.
And not to
We're
mention,
loving every second of it.
not to mention the to show them that the time that they took in passing on that heritage to somebody else took hold.
Took hold.
And it worked.
I mean, it took hold with some sharp teeth and prongs on it, because I got to see some pictures. I'm very fortunate, and I might get into that later on in this podcast, but I'm a very fortunate person as far as who I've been able to be around, who I was raised by, who gave me opportunities to get involved in fishing, who gave me the little jump when I need a little jump to keep going. And then also some of the people that gave me, don't just be content with what you've got and going out and doing your same thing every time, which is okay for some people. It's just, for me, I want to just keep learning. I want to just keep building. I want to keep going. And I know that if we keep doing this as fishermen and women, we can bring more people in with this interest that we have. It can be a little bit difficult and challenging at times to get, the younger generation to believe in it. But I'll tell you one thing, you put kids in the boat, doesn't matter where they're from, what kind of demographic we're dealing with, you show them a bite, don't care what the bite is. What do, Jason?
They fall in love with it.
They smile.
Mm-hmm.
They smile.
Yep.
And I don't care where they come from. You show a kid a bite, kid's going to smile.
Absolutely.
Kid's going to drop his video game remote and smile.
Exactly. Well, I sent you back to retrieve these two jerseys. Let's see them. Let's see your tournament jersey here.
Yeah, this is the front of a hooded sweatshirt that I had made. And again, like I said, bringing some humility to it, because everybody has pro staff, which is a promotional staff for almost everyone. There are some that are actually professional fishermen. But what I wanted to do is bring a smile to some people who take themselves a little too seriously. And we all know
some people do.
Most people are great people.
Yep.
They take themselves a little too seriously. We're out there for one goal.
So for the listeners who aren't watching, who are driving right now, hopefully to the lake to go ice fishing, it instead of pro staff, it says no staff. And then there's hashtag the camera adds 100 pounds. Hashtag fake it till you make it. And then there's a spot that says your name could be here. And I love it. I just love it. And, Dan, one of the advantages, you could, if you wanted to, you could work with a variety of different companies, but this allows you to use anything that you want. Whether you're on the ice or open water.
That allows us, you and I, to be right here as good buddies.
Right.
Yes, this is based on some, the clam product, and there's clam with it, and there's ice team, and there's ice fishing. But you and I, when we get together and chat, it doesn't have to be this product, this brand, this lake, this. We chat about everything.
Everything.
We chat about everything from a transducer on a boat to the way we tip a jig to get the bite.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter. And I'm not tied to anything, which I really enjoy. I really enjoy it.
You are tied to something, though, and it's not a company. Your network of people that you communicate with, that you talk to, is diverse. It's immense. And so I love it. You get to talk to,
love it.
Anglers that people watch on TV, watch compete on TV, read about on the internet, and you're just talking to them on a Tuesday night and going, "Hey, how's everything going?"
You're absolutely right. And I do have that, I won't say a gift of gab, but I geek out when I get to talk to somebody like you, and we can sit on the phone and wonder where an hour went talking about
so fast
some small, minute detail. Let's rewind not even 1 year from today, as we're sitting here. Drive out on a lake, ice season, and Jason Durham's out there. And I pull up next to his truck with my wife, and he says, "This is what you're going to want to do. really? That just doesn't make sense to me. And honestly, I looked at you with that thought. Tiny, tiny clam, tungsten, gold,
Yep.
with the little silky. Remember, I
Yeah.
know you remember this.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, really? That just doesn't. And what did I do? I tried something else for a little bit. What did I catch?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like that whole idea, and I've experienced this since I was a young kid, right into the 10, 12 years old. And there was a couple brothers that I fished with a lot, the Anderson boys, and Jeremy Anderson. He guides with me, and he'll eventually be on the podcast too. We'll sit him down. But we would go fishing, and we would find a bite that was so good. You'd go out ice fishing, and like you'd have the crappies and sunfish cornered, or you'd have a great spot for walleyes, and we'd do really well. And then the next day, we'd go somewhere else.
Yeah, because you're forever exploring and forever
Exactly.
learning. I mean,
Exactly.
that's the fun of it.
Exactly, where you could go back. You could go back. You know the routine. Maybe you're going to catch a fish bigger than you did yesterday, but you decide, you know what? Instead, I want
You're
I want a
chasing the
challenge.
unknown.
I want a challenge. I'm going to go to a different lake. You might even not get a bite for the
but
next
I
day.
guarantee you're happy.
You're happy.
You're happy searching. You're
Yeah.
happy trying to learn. You're doing different things. And even if you don't come out of there with a bite, guess what did come out of there with information?
Yeah, absolutely. You always
up here.
learn. Even when you don't succeed, you learn.
Yep.
Well,
Well, you better.
I say this all the time, that you learn far more from your mistakes than you ever will from your successes.
Absolutely.
Hands down.
Yep.
Well, let's get back a little bit to where we're at right now and your background, because not so long ago, your life was very different.
Very different. So I'll try to make it brief, but I came up as a regular old kid in Bemidji, Minnesota. Actually, Cass Lake, Minnesota. Went to school, got my degree, went to work right out of college with my degree, worked for a construction company for 15 years, left there abruptly, not planned, and sat down with my wife after that this past July, and we said, well, we can't just let this fall on our face, so we need to do something. What are our resources? So we went right to, well, I say we, but she is my support team. So
For sure.
I'm going to say we for everything that my wife and I do. So just understand that. And if you met her, you'd understand. Yep. We sat down and said, we have the actual physical resource of a boat and a truck and the equipment. And I said, I don't have a job. So what's my job? I'm going to reach out to friends like Jason, like many others, and ask, can you send me guide trips? I'm going to take on the fishing guide. I've dabbled in it. I've done some guiding here and there. I would actually say that prior to this event in our life, I was apprehensive to take on guiding. For the reason or because I've heard of people get burned out by it. People, say you don't want to take your
Passion to
your
work.
passion or your fun activity and make it a job.
Right.
And I thought, well, boy, I really don't have that many options, so I'm not going to be picky here. Turns out, I lost my job July 8th of last summer, and then went to guiding until mid to late October. And boy, what a ride it has been.
Yeah.
And it has been good.
I always think of those life changes, and I know people that are listening have probably had a moment in their life like that. Something that was unexpected, something that threw them in a different trajectory from what was safe, normal, known,
Comfortable.
whether that's mentally, financially, all of that. But then when that event that seems negative is put in your lap, and it's hard initially, it's hard to accept initially, but a lot of times that is the push that puts you in another direction, that something so good comes out of it. Because think of this, Dan. If you had still been in that same position, would you have started guiding?
Absolutely not. No, familiarity breeds content, right?
For sure.
So I stuck with my job. I worked at my job. I worked hard. Didn't have any aspirations to do what we're doing now. Not knowing what door we were able to open
Right.
when I lost that job on July 8th.
And now you're your own boss.
Correct.
Boy, I know a lot of people listening would love to be their own boss.
And trust me, you know way better than I do. It's not all rainbows and butterflies,
No.
but it is a great opportunity to meet people, to do what you love, and to make it an actual paying job. I don't know where else I could find this for me.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not that outspoken. We've already outspoken. I shouldn't say that. I am outspoken. I would be more introverted in the social media realm and publicity realm, but I love talking to new people and learning about them, hearing about their story. We get to share a boat with new people I've never met. Some of the greatest experiences I've ever had are with new people, fresh onto the deck of the boat, maybe never caught the species we're going after. Asked a few questions, have a few laughs. I don't guarantee anything but a good time. I will never guarantee anything but a good time in a boat.
Yep.
That's all I can do. And I've had them from, seasoned anglers to a sweet, lovely gal from the west coast of our country that came up here for a bucket list trip. Never caught a walleye before. Went to Lake of the Woods. They said they were going to get her some nice walleyes. Caught a bunch of little 12, 13-inch saugers and walleyes, and she came down here. I can't guarantee anything, but we're going to go out and we're going to have a good time.
We're going to try and we're going to have fun.
I have some pictures with her that you would love to see because she was all smiles.
I bet.
And we had a wonderful time. And I sat back after that trip and I said, you know what? I made a difference. I helped. We helped somebody change.
Yeah. And when I think of you, Dan, the one thing I always think of is big fish.
Yeah.
Big fish, whether it's big walleyes or big muskies. I mean, big eel pout. You got your shirt on, Tim Humphrey's shirt that he designed. I always love it, big eel pout. But before you started guiding, before you got, I don't want to say pushed into that, before you had that life-changing event that prompted you.
Opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
Yep.
But before that, you started dabbling in some boat stuff.
Correct. And it was, and I'll take you back even another step, just very quick, how this kind of started back in my high school days.
And before you do that, I do want to remind everybody, we are talking about ice fishing today.
We are.
But we got to talk about Danny's background. And I'm really excited to tell people about what you're doing with the boats too, because I think there's some people that are listening that right away, as soon as they hear this, they're going to go, oh, I
need that.
I need to call him. Yeah.
I hope so.
So back in high school.
Everybody had their beater vehicle, right? Everybody had their, whatever they could afford. It wasn't much. And what was cool? Stereos.
Oh,
right? Playing with stereo systems. So there were a couple companies in town that would deal with it, but of course that was a lot of money to take your vehicle in and get a stereo put in, or new tweeters in your front door, little 6x9s where there was a regular 5-inch circle, or subwoofers, and build a box. So long story short, I played with that stuff and I loved tinkering with that stuff.
Did you have one of the stereo systems that, I mean, I remember buddies that they drive by the house and the windows would rattle.
Correct.
Yep. You had a vehicle like that.
My first day senior year of high school, so it'd been 2003 because I graduated in 2004, so it would have been the fall of 2003. I don't know how graphic you can get with hunting and all that stuff, but I was able to shoot a bear the night before. And we came back to town in the middle of the night from our hunting camp. with this bear over a box with 2 kicker 10-inch solo barracks and a 600-watt amp and blood running down in a Ford Explorer. So that was, and really that was just us. Like, we weren't showing off to anyone. We loved it. And so that was, we're tinkering with the stereo stuff. I'm alluding back to the hunting and the experiences, but it was just kind of what got my foot in the door. Like, I'm outdoors. I love the outdoors. I was born and raised in the outdoors. And now there's this other thing. I can mess with electronics.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't have to pay somebody else to do it.
Right.
That's where I started. I don't have to pay somebody else to do it. So,
I want to stop you for a second. You made the comment we didn't, put the speakers in our vehicles or whatever to impress anybody. Baloney. You were trying to impress girls.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
girls. And you know what? The girls really didn't care that you had loud speakers.
It was annoying to them. Pretty much it was annoying to the girls. It was annoying to our parents. It was annoying to
the neighbors.
Everybody.
Yeah.
We kidded ourselves through it and thought it was cool, but But it was one of those little kibbles along the way that just gave me something. And then very fortunate growing up to be in a family that always had a boat or boats that were available to us. Then coming from having a boat and my era, so graduating high school 2004 and then college 2008, you can imagine as a listener the progression of electronics in the fishing world and where I landed in that.
Oh, for sure.
I landed at the toe of the slope. I consider it the toe of the slope of the bell curve. Well, I shouldn't even call it a bell curve because I don't know when it's going to go down, but it grew exponentially.
Yeah, it went really quick.
And I was very interested. So that gives you a little bit of insight. Car stereos, speakers, blah, blah, blah. It just gave me that interest in loving fishing and the timing of it. So then my dad's boat or my parents' boat, little upgrade for a sonar. Yeah, I'll tackle it. I want it done. My dad, of course, try it. Cool. I may not have been perfect, but I took on everything I could and mounted what I could and got transducers set. And by golly, I got to take that thing out. And that was the best part. Because guess who didn't have a boat payment?
Right.
Me.
Right.
So that's just, I'll leave it at that for the backstory part of it. And then you can ask.
Yeah, I mean, what I was thinking is, you don't just rig boats, though. You were talking about, Brosdahl was over here the other day getting a snowmobile rigged. And
correct.
That's, people can bring in snow bear.
Yep. We just had a snow bear in here the other day. Cool piece of equipment. Very cool piece of equipment that, I don't get to deal with that often, but I get to mount a flat screen TV and pull power over to it and get network cables to it so they can watch their live imaging, not only on their 10-inch screen, but now on a 24-inch screen for everyone in the vehicle to watch.
So now I know everybody that's listening is like, okay, what can I do with more TVs in my fish house? Let's call Dan. Let's see what he can do. He's got a vision.
The answer is you can do a lot, and it's fun with underwater cameras, and you can do that with forward-facing sonar, anything that's got connectivity to a television. People can have fun with. And I can also add, and I'll probably add this more as we go on, kids love to be involved with that type of interaction while fishing.
For sure.
They love it.
For sure. Just it gives them another avenue to be engaged and successful.
Correct.
For sure. Well, you have, and we'll see if you're ready to let this out to the world. You have kind of a funky idea about rigging that's non-traditional. Does he want to tell the world today?
I don't know. I do have some ideas, and I'm playing with some things and developing or trying to develop some stuff. But I don't know that I'm ready to let the cat out because it's not far enough along. Is that fair?
I heard a really great quote this winter that was, "You can't drive a car when it's parked in the driveway."
That's very true. So I want to take the technology, and I believe I know where you're going. I'm looking up at a picture of our boat from last year, or it's our same boat, and it's got this little trinket on it that I get a lot of questions about.
Oh yeah, we don't want to know about that. Because one thing the listener should know is that Dan is constantly creating.
Yeah.
He's constantly tinkering with this stuff and inventing things that the market doesn't have. But we're not even going to go down that road. But I'm talking about in terms of rigging and how you're going to redefine the platform for rigging boats.
I was thinking technology.
Oh no, we don't. I don't.
You smacked it. Now you got me right here.
No,
okay,
no.
So here we are. We're in Bemidji, Minnesota.
Kind of remote.
Mm-hmm. And we also have, this year's a little bit of an anomaly.
What do you mean a little bit? This is a major anomaly.
It's almost spring out. It's beautiful.
45 degrees.
It's gorgeous.
In Bemidji, Minnesota today.
So
in January, end of January.
I have been lucky enough to make and maintain very, very good friend connections across the upper Midwest and even farther through fishing and through some of the experiences. And an opportunity came up. It would have been last fall from a friend down in South Dakota who sprung the idea about hearing about our rigging and said, well, we're in, 8 hours away, South Dakota. Would you consider coming to us? And it was weird because without even thinking about it, I'm like, absolutely. Most of the time we're under 3 feet of snow here.
Right.
Nobody wants to drag their boat up and down the highway, salty roads. And he asked, I said, well, yeah. So what that has blossomed into, and I'm leaving this coming Sunday for a few weeks, is taking the boat rigging on the road. And I don't know that is, I may be wrong, but I don't know that there's that many people taking this specific service out on the road to the customer.
I don't think, I see some local marine dealers that they have situations. Let's say your boat's in the water, you have a breakdown. They'll come out, emergency service, costs a lot, right? It's not regular rate or anything like that. But I don't know of anybody that comes and rigs to your house, that they would come to your house, especially if you've got, like you're going to South Dakota, you've got a number of boats that you're going to be rigging down there. But I've seen vans that they'll come and fix your cell phone screen. I mean, that's so simple, right?
Right.
And people take that service. Having remote to have your boat rigged, my gosh, especially this winter where again, I mean, they're going to be jonesing for open water. They already are, just because the year has been so strange. They go, well, maybe it's going to be even stranger and the lakes are just going to open up, which I don't believe is going to happen up here for sure. But we still have all of February and March to go. We've got a lot of ice to go yet. But to not have to drag, like you said, drag your boat down the road in the winter and get salt on it, because even a little bit of salt on a trailer, you'll start to get oxidation.
It eats it away.
Right.
And we as fishermen, we know what our equipment costs. And it hurts your heart to see it get covered with salt and start rusting. But anyway, so this opportunity came up and I'm very open to it. And what happened organically is communicating with this individual that it started with. And now we're at four boats in one location that we get to go. And I say get because it's a privilege to get this type of work this time of year. For someone like us or a company, a small business like us, we're not a big storefront downtown Bemidji, right? We're in our yard. It looks like a boat dealership out here in the spring sometimes. We have trail cameras, cellular trail cameras scattered up and down the driveway to keep tabs on who's coming in, who's coming out, so we can keep people's stuff secure. We have people's equipment boxed up, locked up in our house. We're not like your mainstream dealership, and we don't have the traffic like they would have. So an opportunity to hit the road in what would be the slow season for us, I think, is absolutely phenomenal.
I think it's great. And by the way, Dan and Lex's business is called Black Sheep Outdoors. You can find them on social media. And where did the name come from? Black Sheep. I have my prediction.
Well, it's always been in the back of my mind, and my parents are probably gonna cringe when they hear it. My brother's just gonna laugh. But my brother's he's the poster child, right? He's got the wall of diplomas and the big successful engineering business. Love you, brother. You're doing great. And here I'm a fish bum, right? So I'm the black sheep of the family. Like I came from my father, who was a fisherman. He'd never tell anybody he was an attorney. He'd always say he's a fisherman, but he was an attorney. So he had his own little wall of diplomas, if you will. And then my brother did that, and he's very successful. And I did my gig for 15 years, and now that it came down to it, I really am in my family, and I feel it. I laugh about it. Again, this is part of the humility, but in my family and in our inner circle, I'm the black sheep, and I embrace it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
You look at your tournament jersey, Black Sheep.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have diplomas on the wall. You have plaques from winning tournaments. I don't see that as being a negative thing.
It's not negative. I love it. And there's individuals like yourself that can come in and see it, and we can chat. We don't even have to mention one, but you can understand the work that goes into it,
For sure.
the dedication that goes into it. So I don't have to, I want to prove to everyone that I'm the best boat rigger I can possibly be and the best guide that I can possibly be. But I don't have to prove to anyone how much passion I have for it. Let this stuff speak for it. Go down the hallway to our bedroom with all the Take Kid Fishing pictures.
Right.
Those mean as much to me as anything that you could put up for a check or a plaque or whatever it is.
Amen.
Those mean just as much or more. That's why they're right in the hallway.
For sure. I think it's great. I love all the memorabilia that you have in here. Well, let's move forward now to ice fishing, to the now. To the now. I drove. He's kind of shaking his head a little bit. I know Dan's passionate about ice safety, which is a big thing. But I drove past Lake Bemidji coming on the way, and I saw people are out.
People are out. And I hope if it's safe, if the ice conditions are safe, go enjoy it.
For sure.
Go out and enjoy it, but be safe. I know you preach it as well, Jason, and I cannot appreciate it enough, but be safe. We have dealt with some weird weather this year. We've dealt with some warm. We've dealt with some rain. We've dealt with wind conditions that were crazy. And I'm not going to topple on ice fishing because I do ice fish. We got a fish house out in the wheelhouse out in the yard. It's parked here because I'm not
right.
I don't feel safe taking it out, but bottom line is we'll move on from this, but just be safe and do your own exploratory holes. Check your ice everywhere you go. Walk. It's not that hard to put your boots on the ground.
So in my kindergarten classroom, there's days where I'll notice a student while they're doing their independent work at their seat that they're looking over at their partners and they're cheating. That's what it is. They're copying their work, and I always tell them, trust your own brain. It's powerful. You're smart. Okay. And I'm saying that to all of the ice anglers too, because just because you see that somebody's out in an area does not mean that it's necessarily safe for you. And we were talking last night about driving on the ice because right now there are quite a few people who are taking trucks out, full-size trucks, 3/4 tons, 1 tons, and big fish houses. And I mean, we just canceled for this weekend in Park Rapids. We canceled our annual American Legion ice fishing derby because of conditions. There's 14 inches, and the sheriff said there has to be at minimum 15 inches, and
Good
they
for
were
you.
at 14, and they said no.
Sticking with your guns and being safe.
And it's hard to do that. It's hard when you want to go so bad.
The situation that I probably have the hardest time with, and I can understand it, would be, say, the individual who's a seasonal worker or a group of individuals and friends that are seasonal workers, and they work all summer. They work their tail off. They don't get to see daylight without working, right? And they get to the point where it's Christmas time, and we're going to schedule a trip with our buddies to a lake, Red Lake or Lake of the Woods, whatever it is. And this is going to loop back to, don't copy your buddy's work. Mm-hmm. And they're going to take that trip come heck or high water.
Yeah.
They're going to take it. And they're excited about it. Things have been planned for months. And they drive up and see that there are wheelers and side-by-sides or whatever there might be on this particular lake up in our area. So they say, yeah, we're good. We're good. We're going to go out, but instead of going out to where they are, we're going to veer off and go 300 yards to the east.
Because you want to stay away from the crowd.
Yep, stay away from the crowd. And unfortunately, and it is just unfortunately, a lot of times people don't take their spud bar or their auger and have somebody walk in front. And I just, again,
we were talking about last night how people get into their truck and they'll check the ice at the access. Oh, we've got 14 inches. Mm-hmm. And they go out and drill a couple more holes, and then they get in their truck and they drive.
They just drive.
You're not getting out. It's not like walking. Like walking, you're constantly checking.
And you're hearing things. If something is going awry, you're hearing things. You've got more of your senses available to you when you are on your feet.
Not to mention, things aren't passing by as fast.
Correct.
So
you're not creating a wave.
You're not creating a wave. You're more aware for sure. But there's some positives too from a winter like this that is so abnormal that is probably going to be record setting. I would guess so. in a lot of different categories. But there's a lot of good things that come from this too.
Absolutely.
I mean, think about this. If you're going to take the safe approach and you're on a lake that you're unsure of and you decide, you know what, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to walk out. I'm going to check ice as I go. Yeah, and this is up here. Think about people in the metro area. Right now, right now it's very, very warm down there, but on some of these lakes, it's like first ice.
Correct.
And so you have to approach it like that. But let's say you decide, okay, I'm going to walk out. I'm going to be diligent about my safety. You're walking. You're getting exercise. This is fantastic.
And you're learning. You're learning when you're doing that.
Think about this. We've had such an abnormal year, and in the last few days, it's been unseasonably warm for sure and sunny. Mm-hmm. And you decide, you know what? It's a sunny day. I'm going to be diligent about my safety. I'm going to walk out. And now you're out in the sun and you're getting vitamin D and you are alleviating some of these symptoms that you get in northern Minnesota or anywhere along the ice belts or anywhere in the U.S. in the wintertime when those skies are gray for so long and just the weight of winter. You start to feel it. You want to eat everything that you see. You want to sleep more than you do. You don't have the motivation to go and exercise. Well, guess what? Now you're out fishing, you're walking, you're getting the exercise, you're getting the sunlight that's making you feel good. You come in, even if you don't have a bite, you just feel better in general.
Right. Yeah. And I wish you could, or wish we could project that to as many people as possible because years like this, You are absolutely right. There's a great opportunity for a great experience.
Yeah.
It's just different.
It's just different.
It's just
That's
different.
what it is. And I like different. I like when we get a stick thrown in the spokes of what's normal. And I like when things get tossed up a little bit and those ideas that you had from a decade ago of, okay, it's this time of year, here's where we go to fish. This is, the elements that we're looking for, the structural elements that we want to set up around. And then you go and do it. And it didn't work. And now you have to reformulate a plan because these fish we haven't seen this before. The fish haven't seen it before.
Right. They're getting the cool part right now is the opportunities are there for some tremendous fishing. Not only because there's not as much pressure,
Right.
but you're getting some sunlight down penetrating further in the water column. What does that create in the winter?
Yeah, right. Weeds, oxygen.
Bite opportunities,
Absolutely.
bait fish, right? So if you think about the positives that you're bringing out and you have an open mind and a safety guided mind,
Right.
your opportunities right now are probably more than they would be when we're socked in with snow and you can't go out there. I shouldn't say can't, where it's an absolute challenge to go out there in your boots and your sled and try to drag your gear 200 yards out on a lake you want to go explore because you're up to your knees. You're absolutely gassed by the time you get there. There's slush, there's whatever. Right now, play it safe, go out there and do it. And I guarantee you there are some tremendous bites somewhere because of the sun penetration that are different than some of these past years where we've been socked in with snow.
For sure. And we're able to get out right now. Like, especially around here, there are lakes that, really every lake around you can get out on right now.
Yeah.
You just, those obviously really deep lakes, you want to stay away from those basin areas and just use utmost caution. But you can get out right now and you can travel easily. Like if you're on foot, you can go anywhere you want. You might just have to walk farther. What's the furthest you've ever walked in a day on the ice?
On the ice. It's not that far. It really wouldn't be. Honestly, it wouldn't be that far. It would probably be a nice day in Canada trout fishing, but it's not that far. It's a quarter mile, maybe.
And that's the thing that I wanted to highlight is you can make this as challenging or not as you'd like. In reality, there's a lot of places you can go and walk 100 or 200 yards and find fish.
And explore a good portion of a really great lake.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's say the exercise is your goal. You want to feel good. You want to get out and get that exercise. You want to incorporate it into your angling. You could walk 5, 6, 7 miles, and that's fine. You're just not going to catch as many fish.
Well, but who knows?
Fishing's not always about catching fish.
No, but you might be able to put those miles on, learn something, and bring a buddy back, go for a walk the next day. And you've got a zone or an area.
Absolutely.
You never know.
If you're going to go right now, Dan, if you're going to tell somebody, here is what I suggest you do in Minnesota, which is going to translate into every other state around us too, because we are very similar in reality. But if you're going to tell somebody what you would prefer to do right now on the ice, what would it be?
If I had my preference and if I was,
And you can't change the conditions.
if I was better at it, what I would do right now, because I love them, even though I don't target them enough, is I would go and find some of these shallow perch right now, because there are some shallow perch right now. And I know it from friends in Canada. I know we're talking about Minnesota or our area, but there are some 6 to 8 foot perch because of this light condition and because of the sun getting through. 6 to 8 foot perch, and they are biting. And big ones. That's what I would do if I had it my way. I would, if you were walking, I could take a jet sled or something of the like, and you don't need much. You need a 6-inch auger, I guess, if you will. Or
if you're doing perch, there's no reason to go bigger.
No,
but on the other hand, if you don't own a 6-inch auger and you have an 8, You really don't need to go buy
No. I'm just saying go light.
assembly.
You know,
Yeah,
like you
for
don't
sure.
need a lot.
No.
In Nils Master,
Yeah.
you can beat through the ice in no time. That's what I would do. I don't give them enough credit, especially on Lake Bemidji is really coming on as a strong perch fishery.
Yes.
Very strong. The Cass Lake chain, very strong. Leech Lake, very strong. Our opportunities right now, I have only been interested in fishing for 37 years. I'm 38 years old. I don't know that it's ever been better in our direct area for a perch fishing opportunity. I don't know. You could speak differently, probably.
Is that an old joke? I feel like that's targeting my age.
I'm 38, you're 39 and a half.
I will take that. I will gladly take that. But I hear people too that talk about, fishing in the past and people that are older than I am. Yeah, there's still people older than me who are still alive.
Few. Mm-hmm. Rylander's one of them.
He's way older than I am.
He's way older.
But I hear people talk about, it's not as good as it was 40 years ago.
I'm not going to say that. It's better.
I think it is too, but I mean, I wasn't around then. You see the pictures in these old books and magazines and everything where they have a wheelbarrow full of fish, whatever it is, pike.
You know why
bass,
it's better?
Why?
Because we're here right now.
Yeah, that's true.
And we get to do it.
Yeah.
We don't have to. I mean, yeah, they may have a wheelbarrow full. But guess what? The perch fishing around here right now is phenomenal.
The other difference is that back then when they were getting wheelbarrows full of fish, that was their part of their grocery list.
Yeah, that's true. It was subsistence.
I know there's people that do, that they rely upon fish for subsistence. I know this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anybody that does. I don't know anybody that they have to go out to catch fish so they can survive.
No, it's our luxury.
It's a luxury.
It's our luxury.
For sure.
We're very lucky to be able to be in an area where we can go catch the fish that we do and grab a couple if we want to keep a couple.
Yeah.
Need them. But, to that point, if you do need some sort of subsistence, again, a perch is a wonderful eating fish. It's abundant in most of our lakes. I would much rather see, and I'm not a big panfish person per se. I do like to go fishing for them, but I'd much rather see somebody keep a 10-inch perch than a 10-inch bluegill. I mean, if you're in a hole where you're able to catch both, let that bluegill go.
For sure.
Keep your 10-inch perch.
I think people are getting a lot better about that, almost to a fault.
It could be.
Where, you get on social media and somebody's holding up a fish that they kept, and even though it's legal, it's within the law, even if it's in their mind ethical, it might not be ethical in somebody else's mind. That's the big thing, is that fishing laws are black and white. Ethics, there's gray area.
Yep.
And everybody's got their own perception
But you
of what's
even
okay.
said it, right when you started that statement. What is legal? What is ethical?
Yeah.
If that person's hungry and that's the evening that they got to go out and fish and that's what they caught, bring it home with you. As long as you don't waste it.
Right.
If you waste it, then I really have no time for you.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah. I would agree with that for sure.
But if that's what is available to a person, but if you're out ice fishing for a full weekend, say you rented a fish house or you brought a fish house or you get to have a cabin on a lake or you get to go with a friend who's got a place and you get an opportunity to catch different species of fish. You get an opportunity to fish different bodies of water. Keep that in mind. What type of fish you're looking at targeting, what type of fish you're looking at keeping to eat, and what type of fish you should be looking to release. Mm-hmm. It's something you've been a fishing guide for how many years?
32.
32. I bet you all those 32 years you have thought about the resource.
Oh, yeah.
How you preserve the resource.
Mm-hmm.
You're not throwing 26, 27, 28-inch walleyes in your live well and laughing it off. you're not throwing the biggest of the big bluegills in your live well. Most of the time, and not always, because it is legal and they are fine table fare at times. Some of the bass in the right water conditions are great table fare.
Absolutely.
But you are also probably at times promoting. Let's let that one go back. Yeah. So it's a mindset. So think about the entire experience. If you're going to be up here, and when I say up here in our northern Minnesota area, we're very fortunate to have tons of opportunities.
Yeah.
Think about the bigger picture. Think about what you have to target, how much time you have. Do you want to eat some? When you say, do you want to eat some? Yeah, it may be very good to keep 2 or 3 perch to eat, but that doesn't mean that you got to sit and slay away and keep 35 on the ice just because, you and your buddy can keep that many.
Right. Right.
Keep what you need, eat them, move on. Bigger picture. You catch a nice northern on a lake where it's legal. Northerns through the ice are tremendous table fare. I think they get looked over by too many people.
I 100% agree. But you know what the thing is? I have met fewer and fewer people. I remember years ago where so many people would catch a pike and they'd be upset. Like it was a bad thing that they caught it. Oh, stinking Slimer, hammer handle,
the only
slime
time
dart.
is in a derby when they take up time or break your line. That's it.
Well, that's an open water derby. And an ice derby, you catch a pike that's about 2 pounds.
It might win you a bunch of money.
Might win you a fish house or a bunch of cash or a truck. Or I know that in our event over in Park Rapids, the Park Rapids American Legion Community Fishing Derby, it's usually around a 2-pound northern that wins a brand new wheelhouse. And I would hope that whoever catches that is somebody that just despises northern. It's one of those people that when they get in the boat, they go, don't even bring it on board. We don't want slime in there. Don't bring it don't take it out of the hole in the fish house. I don't want any slime on the floor. And I hope that person is the one that catches a 2-pound pike. And then it changes their whole perception. They go, oh man, 2-pound pike, they're beautiful. I want a $40,000 fish house because of it.
Can we go back to the smiles?
Yeah, I guess
Can we go back to the smiles?
Yes.
Your 30 years of guide experience?
Yeah.
Kids with a 2-pound pike on their line?
Oh my gosh.
What does it look like?
It's unbelievable. I remember myself as a kid. I didn't catch my first northern until I think I was 9 or 10 years old.
Really?
Yeah, and we fished all the time. But we would primarily go after sunfish. On Sunday mornings, a lot of times my dad would want to fish for walleye. And most of the time we weren't very successful. But we'd catch something. We'd catch a bass here, a pike. He would catch pike. I just didn't because we weren't targeting them. And you go, well, how can that be? I mean, you go out and you go ice fishing for sunfish and you catch a little pike.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just didn't. I'd have dreams about it. And I remember how excited I was when I caught my first northern. I mean, I'm 47 years old. I was 9 years old when that happened. It's like it was yesterday, and I'll never forget it. But yeah, don't discredit those fish. And in our area, we have such a liberal limit on the pike.
Take advantage of it when they're legal.
Right.
When they're legal. You got to be aware of the regs. And,
sure.
And I'm not going to speak to them because it changes, and you be very aware of your lake you're on, time of year. Just be aware of the regulations. But boy, I'm sorry. I got to get closer.
There you go. Good.
Take advantage when you can, especially cold water pike.
Yeah.
Especially.
I know a lot of people love to pickle little pike. You love them?
Love them.
I hate them.
That's
You know
terrible.
what? You know what's supposed to be pickled? Pickles.
Pickles, yeah. Well, I love it.
I know a lot of people do, and I don't have anything against people eating pickled pike. It's not like if I see them eat it, I have an aversion and I vomit.
It's kind of like maple syruping around here. It's like people maple syrup and they pickle pike. It's just it goes hand in hand with us up here,
There's truth to that. That's for sure. It's part of our upbringing here.
I'll let you slide on that one, but I'm gonna stand strong. I love pickled pike.
But give me a 20-inch northern. Most people would go, oh, there's not even any meat on it. Those are the people that have not cleaned a 20-inch northern.
especially when you're not worried about removing all the bones for pickling.
For pickling, because they'll just kind of
They
soften.
somewhat soften up. I'm not on the camp where they're gone.
No.
But they do soften up. Some of them release, or they protrude from the flesh of the fish after it's been pickled. You can just pluck them out. There's a very, very popular lake very close by, Black Duck Lake.
Yep.
Wonderful fishery. Tons of fun. I am still convinced that lake could do very well with some sort of a pike derby.
Yeah.
Bring it in not even a size, whatever regulation may be, but don't give prizes away on size. Give kids out there, set tip-ups, let them spear, let them try everything. There's so many opportunities on that particular lake, and you could probably speak to 30 others, of similar
lakes,
biology where the pike of a good eating size in the winter are very abundant, underutilized, or what would be the word? They're not kept, or they're not as
harvested.
desirable as they should be.
We in our area, we really only have two different regulations for pike. One is the statewide. I shouldn't say it. There is no statewide regulation, but there are the different sections and areas of the state, and I believe it's 4 different areas that they've got designated. In our area, all northerns have to be released between 22 and 26 inches. You cannot retain a pike between 22 and 26. You can keep 2 over that size, 2 over 26, but you can keep a limit of 10. And so you could keep 10 of them if they're under 22 inches. A lot of people are reluctant to keep a 20-incher to keep and clean.
And I can hear it. I can understand it.
I have no apprehension about keeping a 20-inch or 21-inch.
If you're willing to keep them and use them, do it.
Yeah.
I don't want waste. Again,
No.
I'm gonna shake my finger at the waste. That does not sit well with me. That's a soapbox I won't step up on right now. But keep them if you can legally. Keep them. They're fabulous.
When I have guide trips, whether it's on the ice or open water, and people go, we want to have a fish fry for our family. And I'd say, well, how many people are we feeding? Well, back at the resort, there's 20. Oh, wow. And there's 3 of you here today. That's a lot.
Well, we're not going to do that on our walleyes.
Right.
And we're not going to keep over our limit on walleyes. So
and we're not, you just don't want to, you don't want to take more than you need, for sure. And pike fill a lot of that need, really, is what it is. I mean, if you're feeding 20 people and you have a half day or a day even to catch enough fish to feed 20 people, you have to supplement.
Yep. But, and it's been said, if it's been said 10 times, it's been said 10,000 times. Properly clean and prepare a good piece of pike meat and feed it to somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's been said many, 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 many times. But do it.
They won't know the difference.
Because it's
they won't know the
wonderful.
Difference. Yeah, it's fantastic.
I do not, and I'm in the camp, and we're ice fishing chatter right now, which is the best time, in my opinion, to keep them cold water. The best time.
Same with bass.
And I'm not in the camp of catching one in 75 or 80 degrees in the summer and throwing in a live well for 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever it might be and dragging it around and letting it turn white and then trying to eat it. You're not going to give the person the same experience. Right?
No, it's not the same. But I don't have any apprehension about keeping a pike, say August or whatever, as long as I keep it alive in the live well until it's time to clean.
Keep it alive.
Yeah.
Keep it alive.
And do you bleed your fish out?
I love to bleed my fish
do
out.
too.
Yep. I really, really think that adds, even if the customer or the client doesn't necessarily know the difference, when you bleed a fish out, you don't have as much of a mess on your cutting board. and your fillet is of a much prettier presentation.
Yeah.
Bright, vibrant, bright. You don't have as much of the bloodline. And it's a better product, in my opinion.
And then at the end, because I've heard people say like, oh, you know what I always do with my fillets? I put them in milk. It helps to neutralize the fishy flavor.
you don't have
I
to.
put them in salt water. It helps pull the blood out of the fillets. You don't have to do any of that.
No, not if they're properly taken care of.
Right. And for anybody wanting to know how to bleed out a fish, Google it.
Yeah.
There's something will pop up. It'll be better than me describing it to you for sure.
And it'd be kind of grotesque if we described
really.
it. But it is humane. It's quick. I mean,
It's really the best
very
way to
quick.
dispatch a fish.
Dispatch a fish. And then, yep. And, you know, in a boat scenario, all live well pumps running and just recirc fresh on them. And as soon as they're dispatched, get them on ice.
Yep.
That's my take on it. Get them on ice.
On the ice, different story because you're not keeping them alive.
Perfect storm. Bleed them,
Bleed them right away.
and they're cold.
Yep.
So, and there's some that are, I don't know. I haven't understood why some people are against it. I don't know.
Somebody told me once, they said, well, you wouldn't wash a bloody steak. That's where you get all of the flavor. And I said, yeah, but you also don't eat bloody chicken breast. So to each their own.
yeah.
I don't, it's definitely been something that has shifted over the last few years that people have become more and more apt to do it or interested in it. I actually learned about it up in Alaska when I was up there in 2016. And I had heard of people doing it before, say like lake trout on the Great Lakes or salmon on the Great Lakes. But when we went up to Alaska, that's what they were doing. The deckhand was bleeding them out. And I just went, why am I not doing this in freshwater? And I started doing it in clients that came with, every one of them, we've never seen this before. Wow, is that slick? This is so easy. And it's the same on the ice. You can do the same thing.
Yeah. And ice in the boat, whatever you choose. I will say, from my experience, I've got some fumble fingers, messed up hands. If you've got a fish handling glove, when they get squirrely,
Yes.
pull out a fish handling glove on.
Even if it's not one made specifically for
Just a glove.
Just
Cover
a glove.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cover yourself up because you're going to be handling a fish where you need not precision, but a good, clean cut. And I've ended up.
It's this spot right here. It's this spot right. I knew it.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's the gill plate on a walleye that are serrated, and you grab them and you're pinching them right there, and they do this certain shake, and they slit your finger right there,
and
you
it
bleed
sore
and hurt.
It's sore. And then you go out and you get your hands soaked and cold the next day, and it opens up more.
Oh.
Then you go to bleed the next batch, and you cut it again.
In the same
It's
spot.
like, oh.
You're preaching to the choir,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Too many times. Well, Dan, you've spent a lot of time out on the ice and fishing a lot of different species. What's an ice trip that you've done that you would like to do again, and it's something that the listeners may want to try too?
It's either going to be lake trout or eel pout, and probably eel pout tips the scale toward the higher end of the fun meter. Spring eel pout to me, and I know you have all talked about it on this podcast.
I've fished them a couple times. I think they're kind of fun and neat.
I've watched you film shows on them.
You have.
So I once stated to a friend of mine who never got to fish them that it is legally the most fun you can have on the ice in Minnesota.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's what I said. That's how I explained it. That said, I think we're learning a lot about eel pout in the last few years. And I think the mindset is changing on eel pout. And I think people are being more cautious of handling eel pout and releasing eel pout. And I love it. And you are on the forefront with some of your good friends and confidants in the industry.
It's been so interesting watching this progression. Something that I don't want to say pushed for necessarily, but something that we've tried to highlight is how little we know about the fish.
Problem was it was falling on deaf ears for so long because
time,
not that many people were interested. But you guys kept going. You didn't give up.
Well, it was a lot of people,
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of people. And it wasn't just like us being able to, show some videos about it or whatever. It was the people 3 generations, 4 generations, 5 generations ago that were doing it when it wasn't the cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's the cool thing. And now we're promoting a lot more with, obviously, conservation, that they're not bulletproof.
I'm glad you hit that point before they actually got really cool. The timing was good because you guys, when I say you guys, that's a very broad statement.
Yeah.
But I know the Jasons, very good friends of mine. You were promoting the conservation of burbot before conserving burbot was cool. When you started that, people were blocking their fish houses up with frozen burbot.
Yeah. Leaving them out for the birds.
Killing
them and throwing them back.
Correct. Yeah. Letting them go down a hole with a slit throat.
Right.
Over and over. Or slitting
because they were mad that it wasn't a walleye.
Yeah. But you guys were way out in front of that.
And it wasn't the guy that was out in front of it way before Jason and I were Brewer. Brewer was fishing eelpout way before we were.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And he was aware of their shortcomings, I guess, if you will, of how susceptible they are to biting. And at the right time of the year, I hate to say it, fishing is never super easy, but if you get the timing right and the spot right, I will say it is almost really easy, and you can catch a whole bunch of them.
What does Gens always say? The fish are always biting. You just have to be in the right spot when they decide to do it or whatever it is, something to that degree. I'm actually kind of excited because you don't know about this, I don't think, is that there's a study coming up through the DNR, a genetic study on eelpout.
You did tell me this.
I didn't remember if I did.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this opportunity.
This is going to be cool. I have no idea what it's going to result in, but we're going to find out. I'm just tickled, though, that the DNR is putting an emphasis on it. That's a big deal. Okay. Uh-oh. Dan's got something up his sleeve.
I got to pass.
He's going to...
Hey, you can show me.
Oh, he's going to take a break, I guess. I don't think I've ever had a guest on the podcast that have just like stood up and walked out. But that's Dan for you. But talking about Danny, I mean, when he gets an idea in his head, it's going to come out good. And he's been working on a lot of different, when I'm talking about tinkering with things, he's been working on some things that you'll see come out in the fishing industry that will change the way that you fish. And earlier when I was alluding to some of the unique things that he has coming up, I was not trying to get his secrets out of his head and tell us, patents that he has and patents that he's working on and things like that. I was just trying to get him to mention that he's going to be rigging boats mobile, that he'll be able to travel to wherever he wants to. But back to ice fishing in this area, we have had right now an incredible warm-up, unseasonable, but I still truly believe we're going to be okay. We're going to have the remainder of the ice season that's going to be good. We still have all of February, and I know the trend is looking like warm weather for a while. We're really not losing any ice right now, even though it hit 45 degrees today. It can do some funky things, especially on big lakes in terms of pressure and pressure ridges, things like that. But on the small lakes around here, you're going to be able to get out for a long time. And even with only 14 inches of ice, several days in a row of warmer weather isn't going to deteriorate that very, very quickly. For those down in the metro area, towards Minneapolis, anybody south of here, I know I had a buddy out in Iowa today, another in South Dakota. Obviously, that's a different climate than we have up here. But I truly believe that we're going to see some awesome things happen through the remainder of the season.
I am back.
I honestly didn't know what just happened there, but I'm
I am
glad to
back.
have. I would like to welcome back our guest today, Dan Fuller of Black Sheep Outdoors.
Fully relieved.
This is a bathroom break. Okay,
Fully relieved.
This is a new thing.
So you pitched this very briefly to me, this opportunity for this study, with the word genetic.
Genetic.
And that got me very interested. And then the questions started going off.
Did you get on the Google?
No. I went on the phone with you and asked what type of information? Because you were speaking of how to properly clip a fin.
Yeah, and
sounds
that's what all I know is we're going to be gathering some fin clippings. I have no idea what their goal is for numbers, but I am excited because I talked with the two researchers, and I will have them on the Ice Team podcast, and we'll talk about that study. So it will probably be before the study's complete. We'll just talk about eel pout in general.
I sure hope I get to participate and help.
Yeah, for sure.
But the eel pout itself and genetics will be very interesting to see what road or what direction they're heading collecting that information. I'm very intrigued.
I totally agree. Looking at fish management from a statewide perspective, I mean, they're starting to focus on some of these fish that we've thought in the past were trash fish that have turned out to be pretty important to the ecosystem of these lakes.
Correct.
What was the other one?
Well, there's whitefish and tulipies that
sure.
they, for years and years, people would almost party on a hot summer when they would die off because of low, their oxygen area in the water column got too small, couldn't support them, and they'd go to the surface and die, and people would rejoice. Oh, the fishing's going to get better. Oh, this is good. They're dying off. And it stunk for a few days, and then they were gone. Well, it turns out, boy, oh boy, were we wrong.
It's pretty important.
Those are very important. Very important.
Well, look at some of the carp species that they're looking at in their roller buffalo.
Not one I'm familiar with because I've never been in an area with them, but I'm all ears.
Yeah. I mean, they've discovered that some of these fish are an important part. You take streams, for instance, certain streams where you can have a certain, say, for instance, mussel that is important to that ecosystem. And they're starting to look at all these little puzzle pieces that join together because they are. Everything connects. And as anglers, we have to think about the impact that we have on that too.
And the buffalo is a sought-after commercial fish, correct? Southern Minnesota, Mississippi River. Is that part of the big commercial?
You know what, Dan? I have to be honest with you. I've never commercially fished. So
I haven't either.
I don't know what I don't know what the trends are there.
Yeah.
But
I'm always curious where you have a fish. I believe it was, and it may be someone else, but I believe it was Jim Shockey back in the day, the famous hunter.
Yeah.
He said, if you put a value on something, it will be taken care of. So if you have a resource, if you have white-tailed deer very quickly, and they're valuable, and you purchase a license, and you hunt them and conserve them, they will be taken care of. If we have these fish like burbot, no season, no special license, not saying that we should have, but no special regulations.
Really no regulations except
haven't
Mille Lacs.
Put an actual tangible value on them other than folks like you getting in front of people and expressing your own experiences in how valuable they are as part of our resource.
Sure.
So they have to be assigned a value, in my opinion. It goes just like the big game.
That's a really good point. I think that's 100% legitimate.
And they have been, which is really fun.
Yeah.
But I still think there's a lot of work to be done with them. And this is super cool. So talk burbot, talk genetics, but I'm geeking out now
I know.
because you got me on this, like, where are we going? Like, where's this?
I don't know.
Where's
When we get to
the
be
magic school bus going to take us?
we get
right?
to be on this ride with Mrs. Frizzle.
Right, exactly. That's what it seems like to me.
It does seem like that. Well, Dan, we've chatted now for about a full episode, and it feels like we've talked for about 4 minutes.
Right.
But to wrap up our episode together,
Okay.
what's one bit of advice you would leave somebody who's going ice fishing this year? One tip for them that doesn't have anything to do with safety, because we've talked a lot about safety. Doesn't have to do with conditions, but has to do with actually catching fish. If somebody wants to catch more fish through the ice, what can they do to improve their odds?
Boy, you are not going to like this one,
Oh, great.
but I'm going to say it.
Do it.
If you have access to the technology, try out some sort of forward-facing sonar. And I know that can be controversial, but there are many benefits if used properly. If not used as a weapon to just, thoughtlessly take fish, too many fish, whatever it may be. It doesn't make fish jump out of the hole. But if you have the opportunity to fish with someone who has it or get your own, use it, you will learn a lot if you pay attention. If you are actually a student of fishing and you are willing to be patient and watch what that technology is telling you, you will learn a lot in a short amount of time. Not saying you're going to catch a lot, but you're going to learn a lot.
I kind of compare it to when I was a kid, and I've said it so many times, that we used to angle out of a spear hole. And you learned so much about fish behavior and just every
We
little
used to
thing
call
about
it
fish.
getting to watch fish do fish things.
Do fish things. That's absolutely
That's
right.
what we used to say.
The difference, though, is that when I would watch through the spear hole, I didn't see, for instance, if a fish rejected what I was doing, I didn't see what it did after.
When it left your line
When
of
it
sight.
left my line of sight, I didn't know if it. And now we are seeing things like fish coming off of a shallow break and staying in that same depth out over deep water.
Guess why? They're comfortable in that pressure.
Right? Exactly.
They don't want to move.
No. So we are learning more and more about fish with that. And yeah, I know it's not investment that everybody is financially able to make, but that's a good point though too, is there, if you go out on the ice, and ice anglers are very, in reality, ice anglers are very welcoming in sharing information. There are some that get really upset if you're within 50 yards of their house. But in general, most people, if you came up and said, "Hey, I noticed you had forward-facing sonar. Would you be willing to show it to me? I was thinking about this. I've heard about it. Would you be willing to show me how it works?" The majority of people would say, "Absolutely,
Absolutely,
and you
check
wouldn't
it
be
out.
able to get away from them for an hour.
Correct. And we've seen that, and we, as a friend group, couple times in Ontario fishing, where a game warden or a conservation officer came up to us, whether we were sitting on a snowmobile or in a fish house, and saw, can we come in? Can we look at it? And they're seeing it. Wow, that's really cool. Had many people, and obviously we weren't the only ones out there with it, but we had the Bemidji ice fishing bash, the winter bash out of Rutgers a couple of years.
The one that you won,
0.11 pound walleye,
a 0.11 pound, and how much did you win for it?
$3,000. It never happened again.
I love it.
But
I love it.
we had a lot of people expressing interest in forward-facing sonar during that event, both years. And half the time, we didn't even get to fish. When I say we didn't get to fish, we were allowing people to look at it, whether it was my wife's or mine, or the kids were set up, looking at it, whatever they were doing. And it was really cool to see how people engaged. And that's why I say it can be controversial, because some people don't want to hear about more technology. They want to have their spike stick and, wrap it around the 2 wooden pegs, which is perfectly fine.
Sure.
Have fun. I've caught plenty of fish on those.
Yeah.
But there's an opportunity to learn. Like you said, I bet you if someone set up next to you and walked over to your setup, you're going to show them what your technology can do. You're not going to tell them to leave.
I would show them anything. I would turn over all of my gear for them to use and watch.
Let them learn. Let them enjoy it. And I think more so, get the kids involved with that stuff.
For sure. Well,
you do that all the time.
I'm blessed.
Yeah,
I'm blessed that I
we
do get
both
to do
are.
that. Well, Dan, I want to thank you for being on today. I mean, what an absolute blessing to be sitting in your crazy kitchen, and talking fishing at the end of January. Awesome. I'm excited to spend some more time with you on the ice this year. And of course, if you're looking to get your boat rigged,
Yes,
get
please.
a hold of Dan.
Please.
Black Sheep Outdoors on Facebook, and reach out to him.
Yep.
Even if you have a question about
Absolutely.
electronics.
I take questions daily. And if you want to shoot me a text, 218-407-0894, or an email, djfuller12@gmail.com. But text is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. So please reach out if you got questions, you're looking to get something done. And I appreciate you promoting the business while we're doing this.
Absolutely. I think it's great. And I've had Dan rig my boat before, and awesome job on it. And it doesn't matter what it is, really. He can rig it, even if it's for your high school son or daughter who wants new speakers in their car.
Absolutely. We would go back to that just to reminisce.
I love it. Well, for the Ice Team podcast, this is Jason Durham signing off, reminding everybody to be safe, be smart, and be a hero. Take somebody fishing.
Please take someone fishing, especially a kid. Thank you.